That's a voluntary thing. Call the meeting to order. Welcome to the 7 members and the 2 guests and Mr. Clark, also known as Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we take Article 51 out of order so we can hear from our 2 guests first.
Any objection? Then we'll do it.
Why don't you have a seat right here so you can be on the microphone as well, if you don't mind.
Nice comfortable seats, huh? Wow.
Yeah, we don't fool around. If you
Yeah.
want to
The
introduce
last
yourself, you
one,
can. And
the last ones were skeletons, so.
are you here for the same article?
Yes, I'm a cheerleader.
Okay, well, where's your pom-poms?
All right.
We're a
Please
little
introduce,
looser than the
please introduce
select.
yourself, and if you're from Harwich, just say I'm Harwich,
I'm Maria Rudden of East Harwich,
East Harwich. I know it.
and this is Michael Rudden of East Harwich.
Okay, good. Well,
And
So
welcome.
thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you today. I'm here representing the Cape Cod Coalition for Safe Communities, which is an ad hoc group of people all over the Cape. We're committed to social justice and fairness and human rights and safety for all of our members of our community, regardless of citizenship status. As you can see, I'm a person of color, but I'm also an immigrant. On January 2017, the federal administration introduced an aggressive immigration enforcement agenda that relies on the participation of state and local law enforcement officers and facilities to identify and detain immigrants. This agenda has far-reaching consequences in our immigrant communities, and it raises major public safety, public health, economic, and civil rights concerns. It's also in response to this agenda that I'm here. I'm here to ask for your support for this article that will first enhance safety and trust in our community, second, protect the rights of all residents, visitors, and workers, and third, uphold the best of American values. Several other Cape Cod towns, Brewster, Dennis, Wellfleet, Provincetown, Townsend, Nantucket, have already passed similar resolutions. Let me first address some possible misconceptions. Importantly, this petition does not seek sanctuary status for Harwich. This is misleading because it implies that a town will harbor someone who's committed a crime or that would prohibit ICE from doing its job, neither of which a town can really do. Overwhelmingly, the 2,500 undocumented Cape Cod residents and workers did not enter this country illegally. Rather, they overstayed their visas. In the 2010 case, Arizona versus the United States Supreme Court, they stated that simply being here undocumented is not a crime. It's a civil violation and treated as such. In this non-binding resolution, we're not asking for change in Harwich's practices and policies. And if so, then why bring this forward? Instead, we're asking for a reaffirmation of those admirable practices and policies that should be communicated and shared widely throughout our town. I hope you'll agree that persons who lived in our midst, raising families, working, paying taxes, studying to better their lives, as is true of most immigrants, be assured that they'll be safe here. They'll not be detained or deported and their families torn apart. Next, undocumented immigrants do not drain local financial resources. According to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, undocumented immigrants could contribute an estimated $12 billion to local and state economies each year. However, undocumented immigrants are not eligible for many of the federal or state benefits that their tax dollars fund. Why are we asking you tonight to support this petition? This is about our values as a Cape Cod town, regardless of how you think or feel about immigrants. These folks are our neighbors. They mow our lawns, they take care of our elderly, they help to serve your food at your favorite restaurants. When our immigrant neighbors, many of whom contribute to our significant tourist economy, are in danger of being deported, we should stand by them instead of having policies that drive them underground. Some of you may say, oh, arrests are only phenomena in Florida or Texas or Arizona, but in fact, the Cape Cod Times has reported that ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has conducted arrests in Provincetown, Nantucket, Hyannis, and Yarmouth. Now more than ever, it's crucial that Harwich draw a clear line between the roles of the federal immigration enforcement agencies and our local agencies. Immigration is the purview of the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. Our local law enforcement does not and ought not do the work of the federal government. I believe that you will agree that maintaining a healthy relationship of trust among local police and all persons is paramount. When immigrants are not anxious that local officials will check on their citizenship status or report it to ICE or detain them so that they can pick them up for possible deportation, they're more likely to come forward to report crimes or to step out of the shadows of domestic abuse or to serve as witnesses or even just to call in an emergency. We believe this is an important time to communicate this stance, considering what we can expect will be harsher actions on the part of the current federal administration and its law enforcement agencies. Lastly, we would all agree that the best thing to happen would be comprehensive immigration reform, but unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen soon. In the interim, we urge you to reaffirm Harwich's practices and procedures and to assure the protection of liberties for all town residents, workers, and visitors. I ask you to stand with us tonight in support of the petition for a safe community for all of Harwich's residents.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes?
You-
Go ahead.
Any remarks from the audience? Any comments? Okay. And FinCom, Angela, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I've got a strange comment, I guess. The first thing in the explanation says, this article is non-binding resolution.
Right.
If it's non-binding, why are we bothering? Just to add something else into the book?
No, which is, I tried to explain that even as non-binding, and even though this simply continues current practices, it's really important to communicate that the police does not, in fact, ask for citizenship status.
There are lots of ways
Chris?
of doing that.
Just,
Want to respond to that?
yeah, we did have John Giorgio, the town attorney, look at it. Obviously, there are some issues in terms of any municipal official or state official has an obligation to adhere to federal law. And the petition was submitted similarly last year. It didn't have non-binding. And to have a police officer or any official not be encouraged to follow federal law is certainly something inconsistent with the oath of office that we all take. And so he did recommend, if it's in the spirit of a certain approach, by making it non-binding, you really get the spirit of the meeting as opposed to actually creating a legal precedence that officials would have to follow that's inconsistent in some ways with federal law.
Okay.
So he did recommend, and the proponents did include the non-binding element to their petition. So he did believe that town meeting could take it up in the spirit of a statement being made towards the issues that you've raised.
I met with the police chief, again, we've met 4 times so far in the last few months. I met with him last Monday, and he said during the Board of Selectmen's meeting that he was 98% in favor of this for its educational value. He says he wants people to know that they can feel safe in Harwich. And, I told him, if in fact this resolution passes, I would love to be part of that educational process, because that's going to be a kind of a tough nut to crack since there are no records available, but we have to figure something out here.
Angelo, anything further?
That's right.
Dan?
No questions.
John?
No, not really. I have a lot of questions, but I guess it takes up this whole meeting with my questions.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to sit with you one-on-one.
I would like that, yeah.
Great.
There's a lot of questions here that I don't know the answers to. that
Yeah.
you could provide me.
I'd be happy to do that. If you have a card, I can give you my
I
card.
give you my name and contact.
Okay, great.
Okay. Lori?
No questions.
Dana?
Yeah, my only comment was about what the chief of police had said, that if he gets a call and has to answer that call, he's gonna answer that call. He's obligated to do that. As to giving out the name and address of somebody if he was asked federally to do that. So,
The language of 1370,
excuse me.
sorry.
Dana?
So that-
I'm using a process.
that would be,
Stick with me.
Okay,
that would be my problem with it, as it's written. But as a non-binding question, it's gonna do everything that the proponent's asking it to do. It's gonna be discussed at town meeting, and you're gonna have a reaction.
Comment on,
yes, if you notice, the petition cites the Constitution 1373 and 1644. And in fact, those very specific provisions prohibit any kind of prohibition against federal agencies like ICE and local and municipal towns from interacting with them. You can't do that, which is why those articles are included in. They try to cover the kind of issue that the police chief did have.
yes, have any questions or comments?
I think I'm the same. I think there's probably a lot of questions and comments. I'm surprised we're voting on it. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem like something that we would address in FinCom. And perhaps I could join into the session, just because I do
That'd be
have a
great.
lot of questions around it.
That would be
Great,
great.
yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so you
happy to
guys
do
will
that.
exchange information. The reason we're talking about this is it's on the warrant,
Yep, I understand that.
okay?
Yeah.
That's the only reason. It's not financial, but it is in the warrant.
But it's a non-binding,
It is
as
non-binding.
Angela said,
Right.
it's,
Dana?
Did you have comments?
No, not really right now, eh?
Okay, so can I make a motion that we make no recommendation pending further information, and maybe we'll get more information later, just so we have some in the
It's a
warrant?
valid motion. Is there a second?
Angela seconded.
Angela seconded, thank you. Dana, your motion.
Um,
So we're essentially on a motion to maybe defer for another couple weeks while we get more data on this.
Yeah,
one.
let me just, basically, when the finance committee makes that motion, I just want to say what our official stance is. Finance committee recommends no recommendation pending further information. FinCom votes no recommendation pending further information when at the time the warrant is printed, it has insufficient or incomplete information to make an informed recommendation. It does not imply a negative FinCom view, only an incomplete understanding of the article so voted. FinCom will make its final recommendation at the town meeting after having received further information. It's not a yay or a nay. It just says, right now, we don't know. We've got some members who would like to meet with you further and get
And I'm happy to do
information.
that.
They'll do that, they'll report back to us, and we'll make some sort of decision.
Okay, can I have the names and I'll give you
Sure.
the cards?
Yep.
It's Bonnie, Kenny,
So that's
Kenney.
why I made the motion, Mr. Chair.
I knew there was a reason. Anyone on the FinCom, any further questions or comments right now? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Think you have to have a vote?
Good to meet all of you.
You as well.
And you and John, at an upcoming meeting, share your learnings as
Sure.
well as your points of view and whatnot,
Perfect.
okay?
Yep.
We need a vote.
Thank you. Huh?
We need to vote.
Why? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
That's why.
Any further discussion on delaying momentarily? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Okay.
8-0.
51.
38.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, we should start right up with the CPC articles, Article 38. If
Okay,
anybody gets the agenda for tonight's meeting, it has a real nice list that at least I'm gonna go by if you wanna
right.
see how we're going. I do, Mr. Chairman, realize that they're here to talk specific, are you here just for the budget, or, I mean, Carol, are you here just for, you have the budget number for when we get to it?
Yeah, I mean, Carol's here obviously for the budget. If she wants to stay throughout the duration, leave it to her. But I think I was planning on staying through the duration to provide whatever assistance I can provide, and
We don't want to do that to you if you don't want to
Right.
be here for the duration. I would suggest we vote the CPC and then go right back and reconsider the budget. If that's,
So,
of course.
Article 38, reserve appropriation amounts for CPC accounts. This is a standard financial
Correct.
housekeeping kind of thing we do every year. So may I have a motion and a
Mr. Chairman, I move we
second?
accept and adopt, and we approve $168,411 in each account. Community Housing Reserve, Open Space Reserve, and Historic Preservation Reserve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Lori. Discussion. We should be used to these by now. And it's been interesting to watch the outcome of some of the good things that this act that we adopted has had. Personally, I'm very proud of what this has accomplished, and delighted that the library got a nice, sharp, new appearance after not being worked off that way for quite a while. So it's a good thing, and there's still other stuff that needs to be done in town, and we've got to do a better job of long-term maintenance. This doesn't mean forever we don't have to do this again. You know, we've got to deal with it. So, any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Thank you. 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and adopt, fund the Land Bank Article 39, the debt service, with $553,700 coming from CPC for that purpose.
Right.
Second.
Second from Lori. Discussion. This is responsibility under the Act when we adopted it, and that the first level of commitment is we've got to pay back the land bank debt. So this is continuing to pay that down. So it's sort of a standard article temporarily until we get it paid off. Any questions? John?
When does this, when are we done with the land bank?
2024.
2024.
Yep.
Thank you.
Seems like just tomorrow.
Any other questions? Good, okay, thank you. No further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's unanimous, thank you. Great. CPC articles under 50,000, Dana, motion?
Sure, I move that we accept and adopt Article 40 for $7,500 to go for Community Development Partnership, $37,950 to go to lifeguard stands, and $27,000 to go to Depot Street North Crossing System from CPC funds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Lori. Discussion? So Chris, you folks working with the CPA committee decided to lump these together? Was that their
about 2 years ago, I think, as the administrator, I've been trying to group things together where it kind of makes logical sense, so the town meeting warrant flows a little bit. Just for, transparency purposes, if anyone has an issue, you can still say we approve the overall article minus we want to have a discussion on, these topics, so we kind of have it designed for that. But we did introduce this probably about 2 years ago, and I think the CPC was okay with that.
Okay, good. More discussion, John? No?
Is the TVW going to build the lifeguard things, first? Or?
We actually purchased the lights, and then we do install them ourselves.
No, the lifeguard things.
Oh, I'm sorry, lifeguard, yes, we have built those other ones, the stairs we did.
Further discussion?
Just
Angela?
a question. They're rebuilding the restrooms down by the lake. They're hiring at least one lifeguard or more. Has anybody done the cost of operating that?
Which facility are you talking about, Angela?
About the, what's it?
Sand pond?
Sand pond?
Sand pond. I mean, has somebody presented what that's gonna cost us?
I don't think Sand Pond is part of,
Oh, I thought I-
part of this. It's a future request to do some work at Sand Pond, if I remember right. These are, we had a,
Sorry, I thought I heard.
we had
you say-
a young person fall off because the wood rotted so much, so we're just replacing existing stands.
I'm not, I just heard Sand Pond.
It was stands, lifeguard stands, that's probably what it was.
Lifeguard stands.
Yeah,
Well,
not
I
stands,
kind of,
Lifeguard stand.
Yeah, stands.
because we
that's
have
what it was.
lights and we have lifeguards, I got mixed up
No
myself.
worries,
Lifeguard sandstands?
stands. It's a new thing.
Any further questions or discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Article 41, Dana.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept Article 41 for the Brooks Academy Museum engineering study, $130,000 coming from community preservation funds.
Is there a second?
Second.
By the way, Dan, Dave gave me a copy of the nice new brochure, the CPC brochure, nice piece of work. But I don't think it mentioned, among the many things that's been done with CPC funds, the Brooks Academy as one of the projects, so, and that is a nice piece of work too, obviously. Yes,
I just had a question. It seems to me that we've actually studied and made repairs to that foundation before, and I'm wondering, it was quite a few years ago, as I remember it, but I'm wondering if we went back to that and looked at that, or if,
How many years ago we talked, I mean, one of the things, I looked at some of the buildings, and across the street was the work was done on the foundation on where Harwich Junior Theater is. That was studied and the foundation was replaced. I don't believe the foundation has been replaced, not to my knowledge.
did some work, no, it wasn't replaced.
Ed?
In 2005 or 2006, there was a CPC community preservation project that rebuilt the front facade of the building, and with that, redid the foundation underneath the front facade, and at the same time, put in new carrying beams, additional carrying beams underneath what is referred to as the cranberry room, with footings put in there, but that's the only part of the foundation that was worked on.
That's how I remember too. Yeah.
Just one follow-up, what would this study wouldn't be done by in-house, right? This would be done outside?
This should be done outside.
And what would we learn from that we couldn't learn from in-house study?
Well, this is the load capacity, so if we're gonna do internal improvements to it, put an elevator shaft in, we wanted to make sure that the foundation was gonna be firm before, sound, before we did any additional renovations to it. I think ultimately, there's probably 2 or 3 phases to this that's being contemplated. So you have, just for full disclosure,
Here we go.
so you have elevator shaft, you have some work that they want to do. I'm trying to remember, they did do a more comprehensive report. This was a phase that was contemplated to be done. The thought process, and I was part of the thought process with Dave Spitz came in and Sean Libby, is before you make any improvements to a facility, you should make sure that the foundation is sound. So the initial study did not cover a full scope of a review of the foundation. So we just wanted to make sure that the foundation was sound before we move forward. I would
Right.
encourage people to look at the report because it is more comprehensive.
Further questions or comments? Okay, no? Mark? Okay. Being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous? Thank
I was
you.
close enough.
Huh?
We were close.
I'm glad you did that. Good. Can you sleep better tonight?
I want to hear the report.
Article 42.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept Article 42 for Affordable Housing Trust with $340,000 from CPC funds for that purpose.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dan? Dana? Anybody? Dan? You have any questions,
No,
comments?
no comments. No.
Lori, John?
Is this money used to buy housing, or how is this money used?
It would be used in two ways. It's to primarily fund the trust. We created the trust this past year, so we have about $500,000 that was approved last year. We do have a commitment for the CDP is a outside vendor to provide some professional assistance to us. That contract is $30,000 for this year and $30,000 for next. So the 340, so 310 would be used for purposes of the trust. Purposes of the trust could include if town land is acquired, to do an RFP, partner up with a vendor to come in and construct housing from scratch. The other potential, and I'm just giving you a few examples of potentially what we could do. If someone wanted to convert their house now, that was a market rate house, and they wanted to make it affordable, we could buy the ability for that to become then permanently deed restricted to be affordable. And then the other concept, actually we've had a fair amount of activity with this, is if a current landowner wants to partner up with a vendor to construct affordable housing, and they didn't have enough money to make the project viable, then the trust could subsidize that housing or that development by, just as an example, what Yarmouth tends to do is they put like $10,000 per unit to then have the developer not just create workforce housing, but to create housing that would be then have a deed rider for affordable. So there's a lot of different ways. Those are probably the more common ways in which towns have done it. We have, right now, we've had 2 proposals come before individual members of the trust that are exploring doing a partnership arrangement. So they would construct it and we would just partner with either town resources to help or actual dollars to facilitate that. And then at town meeting, if we do get a favorable vote on the land to be town land, to be changed over from selectmen to the trust, we'll have an evaluation done and then actually look at constructing housing on that town property. So the subsidy in that case would be, we don't have to pay for the land. The land is a donation.
And we voted 500,000 last year?
Correct.
For the trust, so 800,000 will be in?
Yeah, and believe it or not, from the discussions we've had, it's a drop in the bucket to what we need, a drop in the bucket.
So it's the 30,000 that we're gonna hire for this director. He'll
Correct.
come back, or she will come back with recommendations on how to spend this money?
They actually do some of the legwork to help us put together the RFPs and to help us do these different projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
There he is, head with his phone.
Somebody make sure that door's not locked so I can get him out of here. Any further discussion, questions? Mark? Okay, being none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstains? Unanimous, thank you.
Here's your Sand Pond. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and adopt Article 43, Sand Pond Restroom Project, $125,000 from CPC funds.
Second.
I'm gonna ask a
Second from
question.
Lori. We're on.
My children learned how to swim here many years ago.
Mhm.
And then the town decided to move everything that was there basically all pond. And so we had nothing, going on there. So now we're adding a whole new area back. And it's a cost money. So the question is, before we do this, should we know what impact it's gonna have on the rec department and us in terms of taxes that we might not need? Do we have to ask the rec department to raise rates? Do we have to sell coffee? I don't know. But, because no one knows, nobody's.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
In terms of, it's nice to be the administrator now for 5 years because I have some decent history. And in the time that I'd been here, probably about 3 years ago, Eric Beebe said that there was some opposition from people taking swimming lessons in Sand Pond. It wasn't as desirable a site as Long Pond is. So I think the decision that was made to relocate the lessons was just due to a higher level of acceptability to the community, if you would, for swim lessons to be at Long Pond and Sand Pond. What Eric has in mind, and it is in the capital plan for out years, is he is anticipating this year to do the restrooms, because it still is a pond. I made sure I was doing it right, that's good, I was doing it right. So what Eric is looking at, I mean, it is still a pond, I don't believe it's even guarded anymore. So he wanted to replace the bathrooms, because the bathrooms need to be done. He does have, in the longer-term rec plan, to maybe make it a family center. So have potentially a little playground area and have it be a little bit of a different concept. So I think, to the point, which is a good one, as he wants to develop that into a more of an active site and put those amenities on there as a playground and have picnic tables, that's a good question. In terms of the dollar cost and if it is profitable or not, I don't think he's done that legwork yet, Angelo, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, because we're not being asked to spend $125,000, we're asked to spend $125,000 now, and then whatever it is, finish what this place will be. I think it would make a lot of sense to know what was supposed to be going there, and either tell the people in town what's going to happen, or not do this until we knew what's going to be put in there. But there's going to be I don't know, whatever. But I think this is starting at one end without knowing what's being finished.
So,
I have no problem with
Yeah,
saying
no.
final.
Mr. Chairman, I think, to the point, I mean, it still is one of our beach locations. The bathrooms are pretty deplorable, and it's not inconsistent for us to go through and be replacing bathrooms. So I think doing the bathrooms probably should be done as a standalone. But to your point, whether it deserves to be a recreation area to pump more money in for a playground setup, I think that's a fair discussion to have.
Well, do they have lifeguards there now? Have they had lifeguards?
I don't believe they have, since they've moved the,
So it's really not, a town facility.
it's
there.
still used, I mean,
Yeah,
it's still a site where people go swimming. But having a bathroom facility in a site where people go swimming,
but it's nice.
One way to protect the ponds. Any further discussion? John?
Is it open to anybody, or is there someone there checking beach stickers, or what?
I think it is a stickered site, and what Eric has is, we now have 2 people that do sticker enforcement, so they do drive around. If you're in there and you don't have a sticker, you'll get a ticket.
Dana?
Except that in that particular location, the parking lot is larger than the pond can
Right.
hold, so I know RTA buses parking there from time to time, different people park there for different things. It hasn't been enforced that I know of for a long time.
And the thing about enforcement is, we only do enforcement at certain times of the year, particularly
I'm talking
particularly
about
in
those
the
times,
summer.
I'm not talking about now.
Further discussion? No, none? Is there more to the project than just the restroom part of it, or is there?
At this stage, it's just the
Just
restrooms.
that.
He does have, I think it's next year, he has in the capital plan to do the family playground and to
Yeah.
do picnic tables.
Okay.
So that is, in my mind, it is a little bit of a separate discussion, in all
Okay.
fairness to
Do
the
we know what the CPC vote was on this one?
all these articles were voted favorably. I don't recall what the numbers were.
Yeah, it's not unusual that they're, close to unanimous all the time. All right, anything further?
There's no quick, is the bathroom self-contained, or is there a leaching field associated with it, or?
There's a septic system.
Is there a little septic system there?
There's gotta be.
I would imagine there's a little one. Sometimes we have, like at Long Pond, because it's the close proximity to the pond, it's a tight tank, and then it gets pumped out at the end of the season, or on a regular basis.
Does the new bathroom need for a new Title V then? Is it, designed and implemented to accommodate whatever?
I think he would have to, yeah, he'll have to go and get approvals. We've got approvals on the other ones that we've been doing through the Board of Health.
Any further questions, comments? Mark's disappeared. Okay. So, all those in favor of Article 43? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
2, abstentions?
5-2.
5 to
That's it,
2.
5-2, right? 7.
Mhm.
Yep. Passes, 5-2.
0.
Yeah. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, Article 44, White House Field Improvement Project. I move that we accept and adopt it with $55,000 coming from CPC funds.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Discussion? White House Field has been getting a bit of CPC money over the last few years to help upgrade it, make it much more user-friendly, as well as safety considerations. So it's a good continuation of a not all that expensive project when you get right down to it. Further discussion? John?
Good question. Was the Cape Cod League approached to help with the funding of this at all? Or is it for their field, right? Or
Yeah, actually, this is for the scoreboard. I'm trying to remember that. I think he did say that he did approach them about that, and they had some discussions. I don't remember if they have decided to participate or not. I think if they were to participate, I actually caught several games last year, and the one thing that was really frustrating is you look at the scoreboard and you can't see it. The sun comes at certain levels. But I think what they were looking for is to do a little bit more, have like a radar gun, and they wanted to have more of an upgrade than what Eric was looking at doing. So I think any potential partnership with them may be in additional enhancements to the scoreboard, and not necessarily supplementing what we've done. You know, I would just remind folks that about 2 years ago, they built the bathroom facilities and donated that totally to the town. So they have been, I think, a pretty good partner with us in terms of that.
Right.
it
Ed?
does draw a lot of people into the town, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Ed?
And quite a number of years ago, they were the lead agency in getting the donation to replace the lights in the outfield.
Right. Okay, anything further? No? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? In other words, 7-0. Okay, here's an
Eight.
enigma. Do we have 8? Oh, yeah, March.
I know, you're
March.
already writing 7, but there's actually 8.
Now there's 8, yeah.
There's only been one, so.
Article 45,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and adopt Article 45, which is the Red River Beach Shoreline Stabilization Project to fix that end down there, with an estimated cost of $100,000 to come from CPC
is
funds.
there a second?
Second.
Second from Bonnie. Discussion. Where do you want to start here? Chris, why don't you talk about this
Yeah, I'll do a
bit?
little overview. I had the chance to present this to the Conservation Commission. It was not a unanimous vote, but it was a large majority vote. What's being contemplated here is, if folks are familiar with it, there's a little turnaround at the end of Red River, and there is a jetty, or I guess it's a revetment. I still have my terminology there where I'm trying to get it right. But as Red River comes down, it's washing out the back of it, and it's undermining the parking lot. By regulation, I guess the town did attempt to do this probably 7 or 8 years ago, and DEP did not allow it because it's only supposed to protect pre-78 dwellings. There are no dwellings there, it's a parking lot. But Amy Uelski, our conservation director, is aware that DEP has approved 2 or 3 other projects that were similar in nature, that were not for pre-78 dwellings. So we believe we have a better chance this time to come in and do the work in terms of making improvements. What the improvements would be is to extend the revetment or the jetty, so it would come down and then go along the parking lot a little further, and then it would dogleg in, so that it would allow for the water from Red River Beach, instead of washing out, it would actually kind of redirect it to stay on a more straight path, if you would, with the idea of stabilizing that slope. The 100,000, we believe, would be enough to do the permitting and the work to put those, basically they're adding additional stones and then putting screening on top to create a barrier to redirect the water.
Okay, good. Questions, comments? Okay,
I
John?
I did go down and take a look at that and stuff, and I couldn't see where that rock wall, the new rock wall is gonna be. So is it pretty much replacing the rock wall that's there with more rock, or?
No, if you look at the rock wall that comes down, it kind of is perpendicular to the parking lot and then it stops. What we're talking about here, we had put, by regulation, what we were allowed to do was sandbags and not bales, I can't remember what they call it, but non-permanent things to try to redirect the water. All that is washed away over time. You can't put, they're not hay bales, but it looks like kind of a hay bale. All those sandbags, all those, when a storm comes in, just washes them out.
Right.
So the idea is to put bigger rocks in and extend the jetty, and bring it and wrap it around.
Like a mini Provincetown.
A mini Provincetown.
No?
Let's say mini, so we don't scare the neighbors, but.
Okay, anything further, any questions?
Amy Ford, Chris?
Yes.
Amy's-
Oh, yeah, actually,
yeah.
Amy does a tremendous amount of work to help us
Yeah.
to do this.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 8-0?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and adopt Articles 46, 47, and 48. 46 is the expenses for the private libraries, Howardsport and Chase, $20,000. 47 is to promote the town with the Chamber of Commerce, $30,000, same as last year. And the 48 is the $3,600 for the Cultural Council.
36.
That's what I said. Yeah,
100, yeah.
3,600.
Good. Is there a second? Dan, is that a second?
No.
Oh, I need a second.
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 Second. Dana? Okay. Dan?
I have a comment. Item 46, my wife is a trustee on the Chase Library, and she's soon to be the president, so I would have to abstain on that vote.
I think that's a good move.
Okay, we can take
Yeah.
that.
You would
one
actually want
separately.
to say that you recuse yourself, that way you protect yourself, so you wouldn't want to vote in any way or manner, would be my suggestion. Recuse yourself is the, I guess, the right
Thank you.
terminology.
Good. Yeah. All right, so we've got some defraying, some chasing. You
We can take the vote
Howard
separately.
Park. Yeah, I know. I don't think we really need to, though. Promote the town and fund our Mass Cultural Council program that we have. Any discussion? Dana?
Mr. Chairman, on my own initiative, I asked the director of the Chamber of Commerce to review her explanation on this article to see if we couldn't possibly reduce the number of pages that get printed every year for this, and she said she would take that on to try and save us some paper. It's 3 pages, and it's been the same explanation for several years, and we've approved it for several years, so I just asked her to
Right.
review it.
Further discussion? Ready for a vote?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Yep.
Okay, it passes unanimously with one recusal is the term, recusal. Article 49, Pleasant Bay Resources Management Plan update.
What was the question?
So you voted on Article 46?
All of them,
Okay,
vote them all at once.
They did all 3 at once.
Yeah.
technically, with the refusal, the person who's refusing on the vote is not only not supposed to vote on it, they're not supposed to comment on it, and technically, they're supposed to leave the room during the vote.
We understand that.
I was gonna say that too, but
I
it
know.
seemed like it was gonna go quick.
Article 49,
The other question, comment, it was presented that this is about private libraries. Technically, they're not private libraries, they're publicly chartered libraries.
Okay?
They're open to the public, they're not private.
let the minutes reflect that. Article
Wait for
40,
minutes, what do you mean? I'm not gonna reflect that.
well, John's gonna get it.
John,
Article 49, Dana?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we support Article 49 to, for the Pleasant Bay Management Fund, and that we, from free cash, vote $26,170 for that purpose.
26,170. Second? Hello?
We're just
Dan,
reading.
thank you. Okay, discussion? Chris?
So just
Couple
on
comments?
this, I don't have my numbers in front of me, but the town works with the Pleasant Bay Alliance, which constitutes 4 different towns, Harwich, Chatham, Orleans, and Brewster. And in terms of it, we have a kind of a unique thing where there was a permit that was issued for the nitrogen reduction, the CWMP, the enforcement of the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan. And this group actually applied for a grant to obtain a larger sum of money, which I think we have in the explanation. I want to say closer to like $500,000. And they asked for matching funds from the 4 towns. So the $26,000 is our portion, the Harwich portion of the matching funds to engage in that work of the permitting for cleaning up the Pleasant Bay area.
Okay.
That's in the article.
Any questions, further comments? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, unanimous, thank you. Article 50,
I don't have a positive motion for this one. Somebody
amend
else does.
code prohibiting plastic containers. Is this a petition article?
Yeah, on these ones, Article 50 through 57 are all citizen petition articles.
Yeah.
So the selectmen have not weighed in on these, I don't believe. Certainly administration, these are petition articles, so I don't have a viewpoint one way or another. It's strictly petition articles. I can certainly try to comment on what the intent is if you don't have a petitioner, but I would rather not.
All right, Dana?
For the purposes of the printing of the warrant, we can take a position if we have questions or whatever that we can't ourselves answer. We can ask the petitioners to come in. Petitioners have also been through, before the Board of Selectmen and made comments and stuff on most of these. We've already taken a position on one of them, which is to make no recommendation, because we needed more information. So as we go through them, we can at least talk about them and see where we are. And if we need the petitioners in, we'll ask them. Be my recommendation.
Dad, did I see your hand?
Yeah, on the first one, 50, the selectmen discussed this, actually, over, I think, the last 2 meetings. In essence, we've taken a position with relating to additional information. The proposers of this article, and it's the same article is being proposed to 9 town meetings, and 8 town meetings, and to the town council in Barnstable. They are aware of some of the concerns, and they're looking to draft slightly different language to attempt to alleviate some of the main concerns that some of the town departments in a variety of towns have had over how this would be. So the selectmen are waiting to see what that language is.
Okay. Dana?
Yeah, I just know on a lot of these, if you read them, they should be, they're combining with other towns, or they should be before Beacon Hill. Some cases, they should be for the federal government. But they're here in Harwich, and they're asking Harwich to vote on this, and we have to take a position on this. There are many problems with what this is asking for. I don't think they understood the scope of the law, that it covers all town-owned property, which means all of our roads, it covers all of our schools, it covers all of our buildings, beaches, parks, the bike trail, anything that we own, it covers. And it prohibits the dispensing of liquids in plastic, basically. And if you start reading through it and start thinking about all the implications, it really is a problem to implement this in our town.
Right.
If they come up with a motion, great, they can read it and get their publicity for that, but for us to take a position on it, this would really mess us up. We've already started to get in, the selectmen have asked for reports from department heads. This is a problem for emergency management, this is a problem for some of the department heads and what they do. I think this is a problem for people who come and visit and use our properties in terms of Brooks Park for a family reunion or for a Cranberry Festival event or whatever's going on. We've seen events all over the town that would, this would be a problem for. All the times that plastic bottles are used on beaches,
Right.
everything. It just goes on and on and on. And I don't think they fully realize that when they put it in. They say they can't believe that that's what they're looking for. Plus, they're not looking for this for themselves. They're telling them that they can do whatever they want, but we, the town, would have to do this on our property in terms of procurement and so forth. So they're asking us to take this burden on for our employees. It really causes a burden there. I'm not supporting it, and they can do whatever they want with their motion.
Okay. Well, we've got Articles 50 through 56 here. I think we need to do these one at a time and make a decision, yay, nay, or not recommended pending further information. But we're going to have to go through these, so, you know, people took the time to get the petitions. We need to listen to what they said and then decide what we think.
All right, so I'll try a motion. I move
Go
we
right at
indefinitely
it.
postpone.
Is there a second?
50, which is beverages.
Is there a
Plastic
second?
containers.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm not quite sure what information is going to come along, but you never know. Do we want to have people come before us? Is that a no or a yes?
Can
Do we
I-
I'm all
want
set.
to
Like
schedule?
I said, this is for Harwich.
I
This is
understand
what we're
that. Do we
doing.
want to have people come before us who
It
Sign
goes
this.
to the selectmen, so people can watch that.
okay, so you don't need people,
This doesn't add,
right, okay. So, John?
On investment postponement, exactly what does that mean?
That means that we don't have a positive motion, which means that either the Board of Selectmen, the moderator will turn to the Board of Selectmen next for a positive motion, and then he'll turn to the petitioners or a motion to come from the floor. So without a doubt, there will be a positive motion on this. It just means that we're not in favor of it. We won't be making the motion, we won't be standing up there saying that we recommend this gets accepted.
Could
We
vote-
could argue against it,
Hang on, Laura.
but that's what it means.
Could we vote 0 to 8 then, instead of investment postponement?
It's not the way we've done it.
Okay.
Lori?
I was just gonna say the same thing. If we stand by the definition of no recommendation pending further information, we're waiting for something more.
Mhm.
Here we're not. We're either for it or we're against it.
Mhm.
So I don't see why we're doing no recommendation pending.
I didn't do that.
The motion
I said
was
my
IPP.
motion was to indefinitely postpone.
Oh, indefinitely postponed, my bad. Sorry.
No. We wouldn't have trouble with acoustics tonight. so.
Well, yeah.
No,
Okay,
that's okay.
Or we could vote.
Motion
right?
is to, yeah, right. You can take action, or you can just say it's indefinitely postponed, and we may or may not see it someday in the future, at which time we'll decide what to do about that. So, anybody have another question or comment or observation? Who's that? Ed?
just a comment to John's question about voting, having a motion to support it and then voting 0 to 8, voting it down. Problem is that on town meeting floor, there's only 2 potential motions that can be made. A motion to adopt or a motion to definitely postpone. And so those are the yes and the no's. So voting 8 to 0 to definitely postpone indicates that you're opposed to the article.
I second Dana's motion to indefinitely postpone.
Right, right.
I got a second from Angela.
Oh, you already seconded it?
Yeah.
You
yeah,
trumped me,
yeah.
Angelo. Good.
Okay, well, No further discussion? We have a motion to indefinitely postpone, right, Dana?
Yep.
And so let's vote. All those in favor of indefinitely postponing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Postpone, let's see.
Opposed.
Opposed?
8-0.
Abstain? 8-0. Resolution to refrain from town funds.
We deferred.
We deferred that one already.
Yeah.
The next one is Article 52.
Did we vote
Support
on that?
legislation
Yeah,
to
we-
change the
did.
state
Yeah.
seal and motto. I don't have a positive on that one either.
Wait a second.
So-
What number are we on? 52.
52. What do you want to do?
I make a motion, we indefinitely postpone.
Is there a second? Second, John. Discussion? What is the argument on this one?
Well, in their explanation, they write some things that aren't necessarily true about their concerns for Native Americans. This seal is, the state seal appears everywhere in the Commonwealth. It's on our flags, it's on bridges, it's on overpasses, it's in the State House, it's used in a lot of different ways. And they're asking to change that based on, this flag has been around since before the Civil War. During the Civil War, 341, again, we're in Harwich, voting this for Harwich. I don't care what the other towns are doing, I don't care what their reasons are. In Harwich, we sent 341 people to the Civil War that fought under this flag. And in the Civil War, every regiment out there for every different state had the Union flag, but they also had their state flag. That was the most important for volunteer regiments from the states. Harwich sent more people than anybody. We had people that died under that flag and fought under that flag, and in my mind, we paid for that flag. We had 38 people from Harwich at the Battle of Gettysburg in 10 different regiments. We had people at the beginning, we had people at Appomattox, all from Harwich, fighting for that flag. We've paid for it. And to go through and try and say, what would we put on a new flag that won't be an insult to somebody else 150 years from now or 200 years from now, I have no idea. It's just a road I don't want to go down. Here in Harwich, we've paid for it. Let's keep it. It's part of our history, it's part of who we are, and if it was a building that was built in the 1830s, we wouldn't want to change it. We wouldn't want to go over to the library and put a glass front on that or put stucco on that to modernize it. Why would we do that to our flag? It's part of our history. So that's my kind of feeling on it.
Further discussion? Questions, comments? Being none, the motion is to
Definitely postpone.
indefinitely postpone, right?
Yep.
All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Abstains?
6 to 2?
Yep.
6 to 2?
Okay. Amend general bylaws banning single-use plastic straws.
Good thing I read all these, huh?
Let's have a motion a second, and then,
I move to indefinitely postpone.
is there a second? Second from Dan. This is something that's going on across the nation and to an extent around the world, trying to deal with this plastic, the big plastic issue in general terms, but also specifically these straws. And kids are involved in collecting them and trying to get stores to stop selling them and trying to get the restaurants to stop carrying them and so forth. So it's a citizen's attempt to try to deal with what is in reality is a pretty big problem, plastic in the oceans. So that's what this is all about. Discussion, questions? John?
have we had, does this pertain to all commercial establishments in town? Banning the straws?
Retail establishments shall mean any commercial business facility.
So it sets all the businesses in town. Have you heard back from any of those people, Chris, on what their thoughts are on this?
This is a citizen's petition, so we have not actively supported it. I'll have to, if it comes to fruition, like we had the plastic bag several years ago, we'll put together a plan to enforce it if it gets voted by town meeting. But we haven't done anything prospectively because it's a citizen petition.
Bonnie?
To be honest, when I go out and I go out to have a drink, I'm a straw user. A lot of the establishments have already transitioned over to the paper straws. It doesn't bother me, and it's more environmentally friendly, so I'm okay with it. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Lori?
And now there's a new industry to prepare metal straws that you can buy
Correct.
and keep in your purse and take
Yeah.
with you.
Mhm.
Not your purse, but her purse.
You don't like my purse?
Yes, man purse.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
there is
Mhm.
a definite push
Yep.
towards this. And I have to say, this was much better written than the other petitioner's
Mhm.
article, in my opinion. They were very specific. They've identified a time frame to do the transition.
Mhm.
They've identified the penalties. This, I have to give them some kudos for.
I don't know if you saw the news the other day, but they autopsied one of the whale, had 40 pounds.
Yeah, it was terrible.
40 pounds of
Plastic.
plastic in its gullet. They look like floating amoebas and whatnot. Anyway, any further questions or discussions? Daner?
I guess my objections have to do with the greater expense for businesses to buy the paper straws, and they don't have the shelf life. So some of our smaller businesses that want to buy in bulk to try and reduce the price can't put them on the shelf forever and save them like they can plastic straws. Paper straws are 10 times more expensive than plastic straws. If you look at their item number 6, it says the United States currently uses approximately 500 million straws per day. That 500 million estimate came from a 9-year-old boy who called a couple of town manufacturers and then extrapolated a number based on their answers. A real survey done by a reputable company says there's about 175 million straws per day. But if you go online and look at anybody that's supporting this, they all quote the 500 million straws per day. That's just out there so much, it's incredible. So, you know, that part of it bothers me. Again, we're in Harwich. The straw portion of our plastic waste is a very small percentage of the plastic waste. In terms of paper straws, they're gonna end up in the same waste stream as the plastic straws. Once they're buried, they take a long time to degrade, just like plastic straws, not as long, but they do take a long time to degrade. So there's just lots of reasons that we can say not to support this as well. And again, this is something that should be done nationally and forced down on us from the federal government or the state government or something like that. But here in Harwich, this is gonna change very little and do very little. The other last final thing I'll just say is that the New York Post editorial board has stated that the proponents, the national proponents of this article, don't care if it wins or towns. They're just trying to gather names for their donor lists to be able to get more donors of like thinking so that they can help their other causes.
Such cynicism. Ed?
You know, I go out to our restaurants, et cetera, and order a drink or two, and they always come with straws in, which I immediately throw away. If the straws do cost more, maybe instead of routinely putting a straw in everything, the shops will ask if you want a straw, because I never want a straw.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with a straw is it's suck down whatever.
Incredibly quick.
Dana?
So that, to me, says it's more about education than it is
Right.
about changing this law.
Angela?
I think Dana makes a very good point that this should come down from the state or federal government rather than us doing it. It's going to be very, very difficult because what's going to happen is during the summer, we're going to get visitors here. And they're going to, some of them will have plastic straws with them, others will wonder what's going on, can I get them, et cetera, et cetera. It's like when we changed the plastic bags, you know, we had a summer or two of visitors not knowing that they were supposed to bring bags and stuff. So I think it should be a much broader kind of thing. Is it more?
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye to the IP, right?
Aye,
What was the?
indefinitely postponed.
Yeah, aye.
Nay.
All those opposed?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Nay, yes, whatever.
4 and
it is
4.
proposed.
So the
Huh?
motion does not carry. So maybe this one, we can bring the petitioners in
Yeah,
and get more information from them, hear their side of it, and may
okay, we'll do that.
sway some people one way or another. So I'll
So,
make a motion that we make no recommendation pending further information.
there's a second, Lori? Second? Aye,
Yeah, I'll second that.
yeah.
He's looking for Mark over
Okay, we have a motion to delay this until we can get them in to talk. All those in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
there.
Opposed? Abstains? Unanimous? Thank you.
Good stuff, huh?
Okay, and guess what? Now we're looking at flavored tobacco. Article 54.
Restrict this, yeah, oh, yeah, let me read this one.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept and adopt Article 54. No?
Mr. Chairman,
For discussion purposes.
Is there a
For
second?
discussion purposes.
Is there a second? Second, John.
Just, the town attorney has looked at this, and what he has advised, and I just want to pass along to you, is that under state law, it is the Board of Health that is given jurisdiction over this. You cannot, town meeting cannot circumvent what state law has given to the Board of Health. So he had two concerns. One is, quite honestly, the legality of attempting to do what they're doing here through town meeting, to have the Board of Health create a regulation. That's the Board of Health's jurisdiction. They could certainly petition the Board of Health to pursue that. And then secondly, he said that there was some structural flaws where they didn't necessarily specifically identify, I'm trying to remember exactly what he phrased, what bylaw or what regulation would be changed. So he had problems with the overall legality of it, that you can't circumvent state law. And then secondly, he had some functional problems with it, that it didn't specifically identify regulation to change. So he had technical issues with it.
In my language, it is possible that this could come around again if they deal with some of these issues.
Yeah, they would have.
Like like going to the Board of Health.
Board of Health would
They
come
could
in.
go to the Board of Health. I
Right.
mean, the other thing they probably could do is to do a motion. I don't think the proponents have been out to chat with me. I give them kind of the same spiel. But if they made their motion non-binding, kind of the support of town meeting, that may be
Yeah.
within the scope for the moderator to approve. But I at least wanted to advise, in its current form, the town attorney had problems with this.
Ed,
No, that's
Dana?
what I was.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion. If the second will withdraw the second.
withdrawn.
I just had a question.
I move that we
Oh.
indefinitely postpone, just so we have a motion.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Have a second? John? So you don't want more information, you just want to, that's good. Okay.
Based on what I've heard, no?
Yeah, all right. Played the Giorgio card. Okay,
It's a good card.
I at least wanted to make sure I disclose all the information I know.
okay. This is discussion, so what's on?
So, I'm assuming that you might know, is the reason that they're bringing it forth is to keep it out of the hands of children? Because
believe
they're
that.
right, so
A good idea.
legally, you're not supposed to sell it to children because it's tobacco unless you're 18. We know they get it, right? But that's the law, right? 18?
Yeah, I think what he's saying here is, and I think our Board of Health was contemplating doing 18 to 21 to change that. It's really a regulation within the control of the Board of Health.
Okay.
What he's saying is town meeting doesn't have the authority to circumvent that.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Or is it indefinitely postponed is the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimously opposed.
You guys haven't taken a position on the next one, now, selectmen to finance committee record our votes.
I don't believe they've done I don't think there's been a presentation to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna try this one just because. I'm gonna make no recommendation pending further information.
Is there a second?
Second.
John?
My reason for that motion was that the finance committee already does this. Our votes are recorded, they're in the warrant. And we're meeting this objective, so it really is up to the Board of Selectmen and that, for
So
what their votes would be.
when you say we're meeting this, is that by recording our vote as a committee? So we're not recording as individuals?
No, but
Okay,
they have
but-
even said, right, that's
Yeah,
fine.
the proponent did come in and had a conversation with me, so I'm a little bit more familiar
also
with his
spoke.
intent. And I think what he was looking to do is in the warrant, the booklet that we produce, obviously all the votes of FinCom are in there,
Yeah.
8-0, 6-2. He would like to have the selectmen be on record for what their votes are and have a similar thing done in the book where it would mandate that the selectmen include their recommendations in the book. That's the intent, but the board hasn't had a discussion on it. I think 2 or 3 years ago, they did kind of voluntarily, one of the members had brought up and had expressed some interest in putting it in, and the board had a discussion, and at that point had said they did not want to put it in. But every year, a new board is there, so, but he wants to make it basically mandatory is the intent of this, for the
And
selectmen to have
is
the
this
rec-
voter aware that we do that?
He's aware, I actually showed him
Spoke in front of
I
us.
showed him the book.
Bonnie?
Yeah, he was in here.
I'm sorry, Bonnie?
So is it just that we record them for the warrant, or is it we record them every time we take a vote during the year? That's the question.
Well,
And then, sorry, and then the secondary, they're not secret ballots. All the meetings are recorded, so everyone knows if I go yes or no. So it's already recorded. It's recorded visually, so,
Right.
and audibly, so I'm not sure what
Yeah.
more we need to do.
I think, to your point, and through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, but to your point, under public records law, for the minutes, anytime a discussion, ensues that leads to a motion, then you have to record the votes. So certainly the votes are available in the minutes. I think what the point is that how to better inform town meeting, and shouldn't town meeting have access to not only the vote of the FinCom, but also the vote of the Board of Selectmen. So that is not part of public records law, that vote be included in.
Angelo and then John.
I know the numbers that we have, 3 to 6 to 0, whatnot. The English in here is strange, because what this English says to me is that basically the name of every person voting has to be given. Now, I don't care because it's on television,
Right.
but I don't know whether the selectmen would care, but I think it's a strange thing to do. But I think that's the danger of voting for this without pulling that individual statement says will require the individual voting records. So, but I would vote that we leave it alone.
John?
Exactly, that's how I think the petitioner was Matt Sutton, and he was in here a month ago or so, with some other articles for discussion. And it is, I think he wants the individual names recorded of who votes for what. And I told him at that meeting that I had no problem myself recording the votes, and I've been recording names of all our warrant articles here, who voted for them, who didn't vote for them, they were asked to provide them. And yes, we are being recorded, but this is the first year we have been recorded. So it may be a moot point from this point for us, and it's reflected going forward. You just go back and review the appropriate meeting, and you can see who voted for what. But up until a couple months ago, we weren't recorded, and individual names were not recorded. But I think that's the gist of this article, individual names, for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason. That's the reason.
Dana?
When he sat before us, I didn't get that indication. I got the indication that he didn't care, that he wanted the total vote, and he didn't want individual names. And I would be totally against us recording everybody's individual names, especially for this, because if anybody ever came to town meeting and said, well, who was the one that didn't vote for that, other than already known, it's probably me, that person we would identify that person at town meeting, or they would get up and identify themselves, and they could give a minority report. In a minority report, you state that it's a minority report, and you state that you should vote with the majority, but after that, you can tell why you voted against it. And that would happen at any town meeting, so it's not any kind of indication to hide it. I just think that the Board of Selectmen are the ones that have to weigh it. We're already doing, I think, what we need to be doing to satisfy this article. I would like the motion to specifically say total votes or whatever of the committees, and maybe if they decide to support it, they would do that. But if they decide not to support it, I would support that too. I have no, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Ed?
You know, as I read the article, I agree, it basically seems to say that the individual people by name, their vote needs to be recorded. And unfortunately, you know, he may or may not at town meeting get up and make a motion that changes that language, but unfortunately for the selectmen and for you guys, you can't really vote on what may happen. You can only vote on what's in front of you. What's in front of you is, I believe, and whether it was his intent for that to happen or not, it seems to be that's what it says.
Dana?
And if the selectmen are in favor of this going forward and aren't willing to make a positive motion, if it's left up to the petitioners to make the positive motion, and they don't make the correct motion, I would suggest that we would have an amendment ready to fix that.
Yeah, just pull that word out.
Yeah. So, if we're gonna, in other words, when we reconsider this, if the selectmen are against it, and neither side is doing the positive motion, and it's left up to the petitioner, I would suggest that we also vote to have an amendment ready to take out the wording that says individual votes and just total votes of the committee,
Okay.
which would be within the scope.
All right, well, let's vote on the,
Just a point of history, I remember being told as a young selectman when I asked the question of Mr. Melville, former town administrator, actually the first town administrator in Harwich, why is it that the finance committee's votes are recorded and the selectmen don't? I said, well, when I first started here, the selectmen's votes were recorded, but they decided because they had a tendency to change them so often in the run-up to town meeting, it always became confusing, and they'd rather make
Wow.
their, wait until they were sure before they committed their position to the public.
okay, move along here. Yes, Dana?
In the 6 years I was a selectman, we recorded our votes too.
Wow, okay.
And they were in the warrant.
Okay, so, Article 55, right?
Yeah, no recommendation pending further information.
Right.
Information is the motion.
All
Let it
those
up
in
to the
favor say
selectmen.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Unanimous? Thank you. 8-0. Let's keep going here. Amend the charter term selectman to select board.
Here we go again.
Well, here we are.
I move indefinite postponement.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay. Discussion?
I th-
Dana?
Go ahead.
No, I have-
Sure,
I have
um,
motion.
Again, this, unlike the other one that you pointed out, this is very poorly done because it just says the one place that fixes it and then it says fix it everywhere else. There's a couple of places where it doesn't say Board of Selectmen and that's in quotes here, so that's what they would fix. In at least one case, it says Office of Selectmen. And it's in the same sentence as they say Board of Selectmen. So you'd be fixing one, but not fixing the other. The other thing that this does is it doesn't change any of our bylaws that have to do with Board of Selectmen. So you fix the charter, we should be fixing the bylaws at the same thing. When it first came up with the selectmen, including it in the warrant, we talked about it that night. My recommendation was the same then as it is now, is that if you're gonna do this, you do it right. You put together the entire package and you do them all. Again, Board of Selectmen is an institution, it's part of our history, it goes back all the way to 1833, 1832, when Everett first adopted the Board of Selectmen, and they started it. And again, if it was a building, you wouldn't want to change the whole facade. But are we just a collection of buildings when it comes to our history? What about our institutions? I think that this is just as much a part of our history as any of our buildings. So I support not going forward with this.
Anybody else? Lori?
I'm opposite. This may be not written correctly, and I will give you that. But when is our charter up for review?
They fairly recently did a review 2 years
Right.
ago. I think it is every 5 years.
Every
that
5
is,
years?
the cycle. I believe that's right.
And when the charter is reviewed and modified, the charter and the bylaws, does that come to the town to vote, the whole thing?
Yes.
The whole thing does. So in the spirit of this, I have to support it. I don't think we should be saying select men. It can be offensive to women that are part of this board. I think a select board is more inclusive.
No, yeah. Anybody else? Angela?
I can understand changing the term select, but I think the term select board is not very good. So I would certainly support changing the name and targeting, getting it done, time to work with the charter. But I think we have to deal with a better name. You know, there are people who call counselors and whatnot. It kind of makes sense. Maybe we can have a word, maybe it's the executive committee. You know, it's a town executive committee. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as everybody knows what it is. But I think it could be a benefit to changing.
Bonnie?
So is selectman just a Harwich term, or is it a Massachusetts term?
Massachusetts charter.
So,
And some other states.
yeah, so I would say, wouldn't we look to have that as a state push down from the top? I mean, that's just my opinion.
So to that point, we are a, what they call a home rule
Okay.
jurisdiction, if you would. So the state allows for individual towns to determine how they operate. So we have our own charter. So the town could change the charter and the language throughout the charter to reflect what that would be, because we are considered to be a home rule state. So if there are some towns, actually quite a few towns that don't have a charter, and if you don't have a charter, or in our case, if our charter doesn't cover certain areas, then you fall back to state law. And in state law, the state law does use selectmen. But where we have a home rule charter, we certainly would be within our rights to change and amend that and to utilize that process.
But it would be,
Liz-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Elizabeth?
Many towns, most towns in Massachusetts have changed this.
Wrong.
Since it's sexist. And it's select board is what's been working everywhere else. I think most of the towns on the Cape have changed it to select board, and then they're just called board members, and that seems to appease everybody without offending.
Lori?
I know the town of Eastham, currently they call them selectmen, I work for the town of Eastham, and we are moving, we update our charter in the years that end in a 0. So 2020, we're working on it now, and it's going to be changed to select board, is what the recommendation has been so far.
I think Ed is kind of thinks. I think Ed.
I raised this question with the Secretary of State, and his opinion is, for all purposes, he accepts the term select board as the equivalent of selectmen in the official documents and papers. The problem with using a term like counselor or those is those have a different definition in state law. The counselor is not answerable to any town meeting, so you have to.
That's not what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is a name like that, which is, it's a good name, it works well. You can also use that name. There's gotta be names. Why can't we spend 2 days trying to figure out what a name is? If not, go to select board.
Board seems to work.
I think that that in this day and age, the term selectman is inappropriate. I think that it's remediable, and it does. If it needs some language work, then it ought to be something that we tell the selectman, we think you need to fix this, and we can vote for it, against it, or we can just say we think that this needs to be worked on for a year and brought back. But we're going to have to take a stand. Lori?
Nope.
John?
I'm agreeing with you.
John?
I'll vote on this, but I also concerned, I mean, is the next step to change policeman to
Could be.
police person,
Could be.
fireman? I mean, does
Could
it
be.
continue on down?
Yep.
Well, most people now just say police officer,
Right.
not policeman,
I say
or firefighter.
I have a niece who's a police person.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call them in Austin, I think it is.
Just asking the question.
Daner?
Just on the one point of most towns have done this, there's 296 towns that have this form of government, and about 96 of them, with all the ones that are contemplating it, will have completed it. Not every town has done it. More than 200 have not done this yet. Every town is looking at it. They probably will change over time, but most towns have not voted this yet.
Bonnie?
Yeah, now that we have the additional information from Ed that the state of Massachusetts accepted as the same position, then I would be for it.
Well,
If it's the same position.
We have a motion
Acceptably.
to indefinitely postpone.
IP. Yeah, I think IP is appropriate if it's coupled at the selectman level with, we're going to get this worked on and come back to town meeting. I mean, absent that commitment, then, you know, we can't leave this where it is. We have to, you know, put something and say we've got to deal with this. So. Okay? Anybody else? All right.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
In amending the town charter, there are 2 processes that are available. One is a 2-year process where it's voted at the town meeting, and a year later it's presented to vote at the town election. The other process is that it gets approved at town meeting and then referred to the legislature for their approval. Which process is this charter amendment anticipate taking?
Dana?
Do they have the appropriate language?
They're just saying to amend the home rule charter, so they're not, so. Most of the towns, you're correct, Ed, have done it the other way. They've gone to the legislature and asked them to do it quicker. Again, this is an approach that, great, we might ultimately get there, as the chairman advised, but this article doesn't do it.
Right, and it doesn't do it, and it needs to have a lot of changes over the next couple of years, so we got to make, let's give them a shove. Yes, Dan?
And one other note, a lot of onus on this is to try and get more women to run for these offices. But in the towns that have had this done for more than 10 years, they're still not showing more women are running for the office. It hasn't actually had that desired effect. I don't say that as a reason you shouldn't support it or not support it, but I'm just saying that the one thing that they're trying to do, it hasn't changed that.
Dan?
Should we include the language as part of that indefinite postponement that the charter review committee take this matter up on the next time they review the charter?
Not by, there will be a positive motion for this, one way or another. If we indefinitely postpone it, we won't be making a motion at all. Somebody else will be making a motion. There is, I know the finance committee in the past has made a positive motion to send something back to committee to be looked at. Or, I mean, we could try a positive motion that says we refer this to the Charter and Bylaw Review Committee to correct both the bylaws and the charter through special legislation or something like that. And that would make it so that we're making the motion, a positive motion.
I think that makes sense.
Like that one, huh?
Yeah.
Do we know if it's in front of the state legislation right now? It's not.
It's 10 by 10.
Slowly, slowly, slowly.
I just wasn't, could have been, I don't know.
Yeah, slowly, slowly.
Okay.
Okay, it's exciting.
Right
So-
now, we have a motion to indefinitely postpone. If you vote that one down, I will try the motion to do it with an amendment. But if you don't vote that one down, we indefinitely postpone it and someone else will make the motion.
Right. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2 nays?
Four
Nay.
nays.
1, 2, 3.
So it's 4 to
Mark
4, so
Nay.
the motion does
Nay.
not carry.
Right.
Jack voted,
He voted,
Yeah,
you voted yes? 4-4.
do a raise of hands just to make sure.
okay.
All those in favor
Definitely postpone.
of indefinite postponement? It was 4, yeah, it was 4.
4-4, sorry.
And then the nays.
And then the nays.
Yeah. So based on that, we can either do a no recommendation or we can try a positive motion. So I'll try the positive motion. I move we accept and adopt to refer this back to committee. To the Charter and Bylaw Review Committee to look at both the bylaws and the charter for
Yeah.
fixing both.
Can we,
That's a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
sorry.
can we in the motion say that, and to be reported back, time to be considered next year's town meeting? Can we put that kind of language in?
Oh, in time for next town meeting?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can definitely put that in the motion.
Is that any part of the motion?
Yeah, I'll make that part of the motion.
Is that okay?
That's timely.
Good. Let's do it.
That seemed to be a lot more
Just-
appealing, I think.
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We have a
Abstained?
vote.
We have a vote.
Well,
Isn't
at
that
least
a
it's,
good way to
it's,
do that?
That was an
One of these
awesome
days,
one.
we're all gonna acknowledge that women have a place at the table, you
That's
know? One of these days.
we are sitting here.
I know, I'm just saying.
So you think you had fun on
We
that one?
all-
The next article, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
is Article 57, to rescind Article 57 of the May annual 2016 town meeting, authorizing the pet burial.
That's yours,
fund.
sorry.
yeah, okay,
Pulling your paper.
yeah. So,
They didn't come before you to present when they came, right? They didn't come before you at all when you took up the petition articles. Have
I
you
think
heard
that
from
there
them?
has been, there's been discussion. I don't think we've invited them in specifically on the petition article, but they have been in front of the board on this topic.
okay, well, do we have a motion?
I'll move indefinite postponement.
Is there a second? there a second?
Second.
Did you say second?
No.
Did you say second?
I said second.
I thought. Okay, good. Discussion?
Question? Clarification, actually.
Yeah.
What does IPP stand for under the Board of Selectmen's vote?
Indefinite postponement.
Okay. Discussion, John?
Again, I'd like a little more clarification on indefinite postponement, exactly what that means. So if we vote in favor of indefinite postponing it, that's just the finance committee's recommendation at town meeting.
Right.
At town meeting, I guess the petitioners will present this at town meeting,
Yeah,
and the town will vote on it.
right.
The town will look to us as a finance committee for our position of what we did, and they'll look to the selectmen for what they did.
Right.
It doesn't mean that does not get voted on at town meeting. It still get voted on by the town at town
Mhm.
meeting.
Yeah,
Just, Mr. Chairman, on this, the proponent has drafted a motion that's been reviewed by council, so there is definitely an intent to have a motion from the floor to have this be considered.
Is a motion to accept and adopt?
Oh, yeah.
But is that all it says, or does it do something else? I mean, it's a petition article, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to, there was a slight modification made because they used the word rescind a previous action, and you can't rescind. So I think they did do a technical correction that as of the date of town meeting's action, the jurisdiction of the property would go from the cemetery commission back to the Board of Selectmen as general municipal property. Council advised at a selectmen's meeting that two-stage process, so town meeting can vote that, but then it still requires a two-thirds vote from the cemetery commission before it becomes operative. So a two-step approval process for that, so town meeting would only be one half of that step.
Ed?
And also, I believe it takes a two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote, correct.
Town meeting.
Right.
And the technical step that the cemetery commission has to do is they have to vote property surplus. Which will intend to.
Dana?
Just at that meeting, the chairman of the commission stood up and said that they would not make it surplus at this point. I don't know if that would change, if more than two-thirds of town meeting voted to tell three people to change, but right now, they're saying that they would not change that. I mean, I'm against this for the fact that town meeting we did try to sell this land on more than one occasion, and town meeting was not interested in selling the land. So even if we give it back to the Board of Selectmen, that doesn't necessarily mean that town meeting's gonna allow the land to be sold. So another purpose was tried, a pet burial ground, and that passed town meeting. People want to have this, at least according to town meeting. There was a problem with the funding source that got, and to their credit, when the selectmen found that out, they stopped the whole process and said, we're going back to town meeting to get the funding straightened out, which the next articles do. And we've approved the next one to fund it. And then the biggest concern that I think that came up for a lot of people was the whole idea of the crematorium and $5 million and all of that kind of stuff. And that's not on the table. That's been moved off the capital plan, and it's a 7-year capital plan right now, so that's
Gonna
not
be a while.
part of this discussion. So in this discussion is, do we want to continue with the pet burial ground? Do we want to fix the funding situation and go forward with it? And that's where I am. So this would not be in the best interest of the town, I don't think.
Any further discussion on Article 57? Okay. All those in,
Definitely postpone.
yeah, all those in favor of indefinitely postponing this petition article, please say aye with a
Aye.
hand up.
Aye.
Hand up, please. Against? 2.
6 to 2.
6 to 2. Okay. This
We've already
is set up a
done
burial
58.
ground.
We've already done that one now. So we're up to number 60, which is approve utility easements for Station 2. I move we accept and adopt.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
John, was that you?
Second, oh, yeah.
And,
Dan did.
Dan did.
and
Dan? Okay.
He was quick.
Discussion. Approve utility easements for Station 2. Given the progress on the building, we probably ought to get this one done, huh? Okay. Looks good. Discussion? No? Comments? All right. In order to get home tonight sometime before 12, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous?
Article 61, I move we accept and adopt affordable housing trust lots to be designated as affordable, and I'll just make a comment after that. That's my motion to accept and adopt.
Is there a second? Mark? Yeah, thank you. This is part and parcel of the work we're doing to try to increase housing in the town, and we took actions last year, and we're taking actions this year in this warrant, and the whole point being, we gotta get some affordable housing faster than we're getting it. And you saw Cape Cod Times, an article today, I think it was, on the whole issue of affordable housing, the impact on the Cape, and young families and can't afford to be here, so there are no kids. And some of us getting older may want that. We may want to have kids around. That's far as I'm going to go with that. Okay. Discussion? Comments?
If
Dave?
anybody wants to find out more, there have been 2 good presentations at the Board of Selectmen's meetings over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah?
And they've really explained things quite well with maps and everything as to where they are and so forth. So if you look at those and then change your mind, you can come back. But I would say if you look at those, you'll really understand what's being
Right.
requested here. And
Yeah? John?
It's just a general question for Chris. So if we pass this, which I don't see, I'm in favor, if a developer comes to it and says, okay, I'd like to develop parcel A on this, an acre and 5/8 for affordable housing, the town would entertain a developer to do that.
absolutely, yeah. The way the process would work, just in a nutshell in this, we would, if town meeting votes in favor of it, that means all of them would be up for consideration. We will engage the services of Mass Housing Partnership, MHP. They would do a feasibility study, and they would give us an initial, and then we would do an RFP. So if that parcel was deemed to be viable for affordable housing, then we would do an RFP to have a builder come in and construct it. So that would be the process. Anytime you construct affordable housing, you have to have a lottery for people to be able to qualify, and you have a partnership with the developer to develop the properties. If there is one of the properties that comes up and it deems to be not suitable for any kind of development, then the trust would make a motion to send it back to the town, most likely for, if it was conservation land, if it wasn't developable, make a recommendation to town meeting to send it back. But each of those ones would be considered for development purposes, and we would engage MHP or another state institution to help us go through that feasibility.
But strictly for affordable housing.
Strictly for affordable housing. The trust is limited to affordable housing.
Do we have any idea what the value of all these parcels, if they were, if the town elected them to put them on the open market and sell them at market rate, how much we would gain from not only the sale, but then the taxable houses that we built on that?
Yeah, we have not engaged in that. We have not done that.
Have you ever done a study like that before we sold land, before we given it away, or without finding out if there's alternate revenue sources from it?
I'm trying to think of a project that we may have done. Generally, if we're going to sell land, that we have to establish a value to it, so we do engage the services of an appraiser and then the appraiser comes in, gives us a value, and then we would put that value onto the land when we're going to sell it. The only one that really comes to mind immediately, we did 4 Central Ave, was on town meeting. That was a very small parcel. When you have parcels that have a projected value of under 35,000, you can use the assessed value instead of an appraised value. So we did go out to bid on that, selling it to the neighbors, if you would. The assessed value on that came back at 2,500. People didn't want to have a campsite or anything, so it kind of drove the price up. So we wound up selling it for $50,000. But that we did kind of competitively put that out. So the law does, mass procurement law does have 2 standards. If it's over 35,000, you should get an appraisal to determine value. And if it's under, you can use a land of low value concept, such as selling it competitively to the neighbors.
Ed, excuse me, Ed?
Yeah, in the past, affordable housing that the town has developed, there's a fair amount of it that has been developed on parcels that the town owned. In all cases that I know of, that land was transferred to either the housing authority or one of the nonprofit developers that Habitat for Humanity, Community Development Partnership, at no cost for the development. It's the town's sort of subsidy in developing the affordable housing. The property by the golf course that the senior housing is on was transferred to Cape Church Homes for the development of that property. So, that's a typical way that the land that the town did sell that's benefited affordable housing is the land that Stonewood is on now. That was purchased a long time ago, and there was a thought of putting a fire station there. In the late 90s,
Yeah.
it was approved at a town meeting to put it up for sale because our current secondary firehouse was built and operating, and it sat there unsold until, when did we sell it? 2009, and that raised some $2.4 million, which went into our then apparently we had an affordable housing fund that wasn't set up properly, but the following year we corrected that, and over the period of time, a number of different projects came before the town, and we let money out of that fund to help catch in a number of developers develop affordable housing and the sale price of that property.
Dana, I think you were next.
Yeah, I guess, and my answer, John, to your comments would just be that right now, the town's dire need of affordable housing kind of outstrips whatever money we would make for these parcels, even at $1 million a pop, which they aren't all worth that once you see the presentation. This town is desperate to find ways to keep people here, and the cost of that is gonna, over the next several years, is gonna be strict. I think in the 90s, even, we were trying to, when someone was talking about the 10% goal, at one point, we would have had to have built 996 out of the next 1,000 houses as affordable in order to reach that goal. And I don't think we built 3 houses that year that were affordable. The numbers are just unbelievable what we would have to do to make it. And the only reason we've gained ground is because they've changed the definition every once in a while of what counts.
Okay, we need to move
Yep,
on.
I understand.
John, did you have something?
Just a quick question. I understand that in Chris's explanation, and I'm all for affordable housing. It's one of these questions of how to solve it. It's a big issue in this case. I agree with that. But before, and I would vote against it, but before right to vote for these without knowing what they're worth, what the impact of these are. I mean, I said one big piece of it is 17 plus acres. Who knows what could go in at 17 plus acres? That could be a big affordable housing complex. Now, all of a sudden, 30, 40 children now are in the school system. And I don't know that. We don't know that. I think this would be an excellent project for this affordable housing director. We're coming on board to look at this and come back next year saying, we've looked at these parcels. They're not worth that much. What the potential is for this and the impact of the town is this. So that's my
Well, you know, we have a real estate and open space committee, and this is part of their charter, is to deal with this stuff. They know what prices land for, that's their job. And I think that, you know, there's been direction from the selectmen in the last couple of years to have them try to turn up some property for affordable uses. And there's a lot of land that is not buildable. And, you know, we can deal with some of that. Some of it, you're gonna have to work your way around it.
And just to that point, thank you for the reminder. We did go in front of Real Estate and Open Space, and they did vote in favor of this.
Right.
I don't know if it was unanimous, but it was a large majority.
I think, you know, as much as I understand the concern about, you know, what this particular land might be and what it might be worth, at the same time, we do know that we need affordable housing like there's no tomorrow. And we can't put that off in order to find out what the real estate committee should already know. And, you know, we can meet with them, we can talk with them and get some understanding of that. But please don't hold this up.
I'm not hold up.
I was going to vote against it.
Right, to that point, Jack, I did attend the zoning law board on
Zoning.
There's 3 articles on zoning, and one of them is accessory apartments. And I told them, I told the chairman, I haven't agreed with that, so we're affordable housing. I'm not against affordable housing.
No, I know you're not.
This needs to be looked at before we give away more land, and all of a sudden, stuff that we didn't even think of is happening. A year is not that much of a difference.
Anything further? And this is the IP?
No, we have
Accept
motion
and
to
adopt.
accept and adopt.
Oh, okay, okay, good. So all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? 1?
So
Okay.
7,
Abstain?
6 to 1.
6 to 1.
6 to 1?
Mark left again.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you can't vote for him.
It moves.
62.
Mr. Chairman, the next 4 articles all deal with our revolving funds. So I would move that we accept and adopt Article 62, which is to amend the general bylaws on revolving funds. Article 63, to rescind the Golf Capital Infrastructure Fund. Article 64, to rescind the Golf Restaurant Fund to the Pro Shop. And Article 65, to authorize the department revolving funds.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay. Good. Discussion? Do you want to have some?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dana.
There's been a lot of discussion at the Board of Selectmen level on these. I have some real problems and reservations with the totals and all those kinds of things, but I just know that I personally am not gonna have enough time to go through and look at what, I think more of these items should be moved to the budget, and all that kind of stuff, but that's something that you guys are really gonna have to wrestle with in the future. I don't have the internal bailiwick to bring it forward and do all the stuff that needs to be done here, and I think on this one, I'm just capitulating. Yes, is what's
Chris?
happening.
Chris?
So just to that point, you know, I think over time, the number of funds have increased. Not unusual. I've been in this business for quite a while, and there has been a migration from having things on taxes because, quite honestly, there's just not enough support for taxes. So to keep programs going, you switch them to the fee-driven process, which we've done here. We're probably up to about 10 to 12 funds in total. What the selectmen have asked for, and administration and finance agree, that we will put together a quarterly report so people know what is being spent out of that account. And then we did receive a request from the board for more of a It's not really a line item, but just kind of a cost of what the revenue is versus what's the expense. I always use, just to make it easy, like basketball. So you have the number of players, so you have the revenue coming in, 10 people or 100 people play, and then the expenses are really the uniforms and the referees, and then you match those up. So the idea behind this is that the programs are self-supportive. So we do have a wide variety. Carol worked with Eric Beebe to put together a report that kind of shows that spending and the programs. And I think that was pretty favorably received by the selectmen Monday night.
Okay, good. Questions, comments?
Are we voting on one article?
No, we're reporting all four of
I
them.
vote, my motion was for all four of them.
Discussion, further discussion?
And these spending limits are what they were last year?
Great point. I was just going to bring up, the recreation program has been very successful. They had a limit of 125. The Board of Selectmen voted last night to move it to 175. So you should have on your chart that 175 is the number.
Yeah.
So the 175 is the level that was voted as of Monday night.
And that's the only one that's changed.
And that matches up with what we have in the chart.
Except what's going on with golf, where they're getting rid of their individual ones and moving to this
That's
one.
not the only spending limit change, though. So what's on here as well, on this article, is the pet burial ground. If that's approved, then that, the spending limit for that would be set at 140.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman,
Dana?
Article 66, 67, 68, we really don't know yet what exactly those numbers are gonna shake out, so I'm gonna move no recommendation pending
Yep.
further information.
Yeah, makes sense. There's a second? Dan, thank you. When, do you think we'll be doing that one on, the night of the
The night of,
first
yeah.
day?
I
Okay,
mean,
that's fine.
and there's no problem with
No.
waiting till the end to do that, we just, and that, during the course of town meeting, that may change in terms of what we have for
Yeah.
free cash, so.
Right. Okay, so I'll go back to the front page here.
We have to vote that first.
That's right, that'd be a good thing.
Just for.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Article 69, I move we accept and adopt.
Yeah.
Herring fishery.
Oh, I don't know.
I think we should discuss that.
Mark, I'm gonna speak to you on this.
It's gonna be
my
your
last
swan
one.
song?
Yeah,
Your swan song?
yeah, I might bring back some old reprives on this one.
Okay.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't get the second. Who seconded?
Did I second it?
Yes,
Yes.
Mark can second it.
Still second.
Good,
Wanna vote it?
yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we reconsider Article 4, the town operating budget.
Okay, reconsideration is,
Not debatable, we just voted.
you will have to, there's no quorum or majority or just majority. Okay. Oh, I have a motion and a second to reconsider Article 4, Town Operating Budget. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
We have
Okay.
handouts.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do have, we do have handouts.
If you have a number at the bottom, I'll
We
make that
did do individual numbers.
I'll make a motion just a second.
Say small, I can read it.
And then, Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
that's
if
just
I-
my check to
I know.
make sure. Balances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, just have a moment to kind of walk through what we proposed the other night
Yep.
on, specifically just to Article 4, the main budget. So there are two pieces of material that you have. The one is the reductions and adjustments. So at the Board of Selectmen's meeting last night, by consensus vote, the adjustments that were proposed were made, were by consensus adopted. We have made a minor modification to that, and I'll explain why we did what we did. But the administrator's budget that was submitted had in there to go from the hotel motel to increase from 4% to 6%. The Board of Selectmen did not vote to put that onto the warrant, so that is not under consideration. What that had the impact of doing is to create a shortfall. So in order to address the shortfall in the administrator's budget, what we've done here is, when you look at this, we had 337.5 is a shortfall. In order to address some of that, what we had to do was we are using a little bit more free cash, and we take that out of the snow and ice. We do anticipate snow and ice will be less than what we had originally anticipated for that. So we have small capital being funded out of that, police and fire equipment, and then free cash for sick and vacation. The selectmen did not see, so I just want to fully disclose that 40,000 out of small fund, small capital is a new item, and I'll explain why in a minute. When we went through, we did listen to the selectmen, and they had a prioritization. FinCom had expressed a prioritization. So in the reductions, we took out and put back into the budget what was originally in, which was to restore the IT network administrator, a new position. We have a one-person IT department, which is really insufficient for our level of government. And to do the Council on Aging, to replace the 8 hours of additional, and then 8 hours of additional service we had in one of the employees, and a citizen self-serve. What we found out last night when Monomoy came in, Monomoy did make some reductions in their budget, and it's the lower third, if you would, of the middle section. And on that, it had Monomoy remove the stabilization fund, which was $36,954. It's $50,000. Our portion of it is this number. So all their reductions were proportioned to, we had to share with Chatham per the agreement. Restore the early childhood grant. They had a grant, so they didn't need taxpayer money to fund that. And on transportation savings, $59,126. When we presented this last night, the remove stabilization, we had that funded from free cash. So because we had that funded from free cash, we couldn't take credit for it as a savings in taxpayer dollars. So what we wanted to do was to offset that. That's where you see up above my reference to the small capital. So we've had two funding sources for this, so we had to adjust our approach to that. In all the reductions that were made was 356,000. We did have to go through and make some budget adjustments. So we had a few salary adjustments that needed to be made, that the schedule hadn't been updated. We had a retirement, an additional retirement that we had not allocated for vacation leave, retirement, and sick leave. That was a new employee. I would say is an employee in my office, so I'm sad to see her go. But everybody retires, but we needed to fund that, and she hasn't gone yet. She's going to go in the end of summer. Sandy.
Oh.
Yeah. I really do think the world of her. She's been a great support, and certainly when you have a small staff, every person has an impact. On the veterans assessment, they had to hire additional personnel, and we had budgeted 3%. They came in a little higher than that for what we had anticipated. And then we did wind up reducing and not funding the surveyor position. So we wanted to make sure we had some resources, so we would contract that service out, so the 20,000. So the net of all these changes rebalances the budget. So the selectmen did last night, as I indicated earlier, vote to support with those changes. The only one that was new, again, was the stabilization, because that was funded from free cash. I think the intent is very much in line. with what they did, and at the next meeting, I will update the selectmen on that. Carol did the work today of going through and looking at all the changes, so the new operating budget number, and maybe just because I know we're on camera and not everyone can see this, but the total operating budget is, for the town side, 39,615,755, which the taxpayers would have the number of 23,495,710. Local receipts, that's motor vehicle excise, ambulance fees, things of that nature. All those total up to 13,180,760. And then the various other funds total up to 2,939,286. So the total appropriation request would be the 39,615,755 is the number that you would want to carry. But I appreciate Carol breaking out all those numbers for the booklet.
Dana?
We don't have any motions yet right now. As part of this budget, I always think that the Finance Committee should vote their own budget. The town administrators recommended $4,000 for salaries and $1,000 for expenses. I would move to adjust that. I would move that we vote $3,000 for salaries and $2,000 for expenses. Again, I'll make that motion and then tell why I want to do that.
Is there a second?
Do you mean for the FinCom budget?
FinCom budget,
Just for clarification.
yes. Is there a second on that motion?
Is there a second?
Discuss it?
Thank you, John.
Just the way we're doing our minutes now, even if there's somebody in the future, they're gonna be able to just do them from the recording. It will take less money to do that. It certainly will cost less to do that. And that really is a subject of how picky you get on the minutes as to what's in there and what's not in there. As long as they record the votes and do that properly and have tape backup, then the $3,000 should be fine. And then I'm suggesting that the board, going forward, wants to have more people participate in MMA and go up to that and learn from that and be part of that. And I've always thought that there should be more expense money in that. The town administrators made an adjustment, but even that didn't cover everything that I think we spent this year. So I just think it needs to be a little higher because we overspent it this year, we overspent it last year, so I'm recommending that go to $2,000. Still the same total of $5,000, so it just moves it a little bit from 4 to 1 to 3 to 2. That's my spiel.
Okay.
But you guys are going forward, do what you want to do.
Mr. Chairman, we are diligently looking for a secretary for you, so we hope to have someone secured. We do have some people that have expressed some interest.
Good. Okay, good. No reflection on you, John, at all.
That's fine.
None.
And if you don't have one by June, I'll
Yeah.
apply for the job.
All right. Okay. Any discussion, folks? This is our,
This is the Finance Committee's budget.
this is our budget. You know. Questions, comments, feedback,
I agree with Dana.
anxiety?
I agree with his
Could
assessment
you
of
say
the
that louder for the
expenses.
microphone?
Sorry, I agree with Dana. Because I do think if we overspent, people will go to MMA. I do think that we would benefit if the board attended those types of things, so I do think
Yeah,
that's
it's a good
reasonable.
thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Vote it.
Vote it. I guess we'll vote it. What's the right term? Accept and adopt?
Accept and adopt, that is our budget.
Go for it. Make the motion.
I made the
You
motion.
did this,
We
okay.
got a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
And then the only other one that we should talk about, that we should vote each year, is the, our reserve fund. As you know, we haven't been using that until this year. We kind of blew it out of the water, but again, there are backups to that. And again, I would still recommend that we lower it, but that would be up to the board. At this point, it might make sense to hold it where the other adjustments have been made and we're within balance. So I wouldn't touch that, but I would at least vote it. The motion would be to accept and adopt a reserve fund for the finance committee of $125,000. Angela, is seconding my motion.
No, that's good. I think a 125 is a reasonable place. So I would say we should use that.
Question, what are those reserve funds intended to do?
Dana?
I guess the short answer is to fund either unforeseen things that come up in your budget or emergency things that come in your budget that they just don't have enough money to finish through the year. We've already voted some. The unforeseen ones were the insurance changes that happened down at the harbor, the police cruiser, that there was an insurance need for that one, and we ended up with a police cruiser for about $5,000 or something like that. It ended up that we voted those to, because they were unforeseen. The budget came up and it was voted and.
This is not just for finance committee
This
purposes?
is just, no, it's not for us. Although one time we did vote to take money from it to cover the MMA because we were short.
Right.
And we're gonna have to do that again, I think, or at the end of the year.
I do think just structure-wise, as we go through the course of the year, if something comes up, we do use this as a primary financial vehicle. The laws have changed probably within the last 10 years, that we can do a true-up at the end of the year and do reserve fund, or do transfer requests. So we do have that as one of the articles to kind of rebalance things. So the need for it, having a larger amount isn't as great because we have greater flexibility in the law to make those adjustments.
Right.
That didn't quite honestly exist more than 10 years ago.
And is that reserve fund part of fund balance?
It's part of the operating budget.
This is
So-
part of the operating budget.
It's a line item right under, if you look on the budget, it's a line item right under our expenses on there.
Thank you.
Ed?
And just particularly any expenditure out of it has to be approved by the finance committee after a presentation.
Which we did a week or so ago for DPW, but we didn't authorize all of the requests because it's so early. We're still kind of expecting to use some of that money elsewhere because other people have requests too. So we'll see. And if the next couple months go smoothly and no big snowfalls, then maybe we can grant Link's request. Except you can't vote it. Okay. Where are we?
So the motion I made was to vote it,
Vote it.
125 at the
Right.
level that it's proposed by the town administrator.
Have a second?
Second.
Was seconded, yeah.
You? All those in
Actually,
favor say
Angela
aye.
seconded.
Aye.
Opposed?
Unanimous vote.
Abstentions? Unanimous, thank you.
Now that gets us back to the budget itself, the total budget. So I move we accept and adopt the town administrator's budget, which would be a total of $39,615,755 with $23,495,710 coming from raise and appropriate taxes. And then local receipts would be $13,187,660 and other funds, like state aid, water enterprise, moorings and so forth, would be $2,939,286, again, for a total of $39,615,755.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Dan? Discussion?
I had a comment.
Yes.
So how realistic is it to, because I'm just looking at the deductions, right? So how realistic is it to cut the fire, the ambulance, the police overtime? How realistic is that? Well, if they need overtime, what happens? Because it seems unrealistic to me. I'm just,
It would have been my preference to adopt the budget that I submitted, so, and that wouldn't have created this.
correct.
Quite obviously, I think the departments are aware. I do ask the departments when we make the reductions, or actually in this case, Carol asked the departments So they go through and they make the decision. So they believe that they can live within the budget that they have. Will it be tight? It probably will be. They're gonna hopefully live within it. I would say overtime is kind of a tricky thing because you have elements of overtime that if you have a lot of people that are out on injured on duty, that drives your cost. A lot of training drives the cost. And then quite honestly, if we have major situations that all of a sudden occur, that drives your cost. I just think, I was in one town, just as a for instance, and we had a tornado go through, and it was June 5th. And I think the first thing I did was, it was a council manager form, I had a little bit more flexibility, but we froze and put like $500,000 aside just to deal with that emergency. So stuff does come up, certainly in my time being in administration. So, but assuming we have a typical year, they should be able to survive.
Dana?
And just to support that a little bit, when stuff does come up, people are very understanding. We go to town meeting with it when we can. There's the 3% rule at the end of the year. There's the reserve fund that we just voted at the full amount of 125. So there are things that we can do as a board and a committee to try and make sure that people do get through it. And it happens every year, and you call it tight, but if you add up all the overtimes, and they're quite substantial, and we'll do a lot of work. But if something comes up that they can't finish something, they're gonna come before us with a presentation to the finance committee and ask for more money.
Right.
The things that the town administrator offered were reasonable, and I support them. And just so everybody knows, I did try to put on there the column with his changes, the town administrator changes, and I put in red the deductions, and I put green the additions, so you can kind of see visually what goes up and what goes down.
All right, let's talk about the up or down on the school district budget.
Well, we have to vote this one first. The motion was
Oh,
for this
you
one
wanna do
first.
Make a motion?
It's already made, it's already seconded.
Right, I'm
Just
behind,
waiting
one
for a
step
vote
behind.
unless you got more discussion.
All those in favor of approving the 39,
39,615,755.
755.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you.
And just for, Carol did the update, so it's in here with the only change that you made tonight on your budget. We obviously didn't reflect that because you just made that.
Come on now.
We're sorry.
She's
Go
good.
down and
but-
reprint it. What's going on? Mr. Chairman, I move we reconsider Article 5, which is the Monomoy Regional School budget.
Is there a second?
Reconsider.
Second from John. Thank you, John. Dana?
I move that we accept and adopt the regional school budget with $26,643,415 to be raised and appropriated.
Is there a second? Second from Angelo. Discussion?
Can you say that amount again?
Yes, I can. It's on the handout there, but it's, and it's correct on the sheet that I did tonight. This one. Don't want that one. It's $26,643,415. The schools recently came down 150,000 total on their total budget, which for us was about 109,000 or something like that,
Just under 111,000.
close, that was close.
Pretty good.
111,000 for us, on our side. We can, originally, I think a lot of people were talking about the 175 number, but 150, who's gonna quibble over 25,000 when you're talking about 40 million, so what are we doing? It balances.
I think it's a good budget from our point of view, and hopefully we'll be able to do a good job in the future. Any questions or comments? Final remarks? Good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Move to reconsider Article 7, The and Article 8, the Water Department budget and the wastewater sewer
On
budget.
the water department budget, Carol still is working with them to finalize it, so I would request that you keep
Okay.
the
Okay.
pending further information.
All right,
The commissioners are planning to meet on Thursday,
they're meeting Thursday?
Thursday evening.
Oh,
But I can have a final number to you before that.
yeah, because we're meeting
Okay.
Thursday as well.
We're meeting Thursday
I
this
think they
week,
meet
so-
in the morning.
All right,
Oh,
so
okay.
hold on.
Generally meet in the morning.
Good.
We won't have a snow and ice number yet.
Did you want to do 8, though? The water department was the one that we anticipate an adjustment. The wastewater, we have that number of 225.
That's with the 25 out that you
That's with the
took.
25
Okay.
out.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reconsider Article 8, the wastewater sewer budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Reconsider, just vote it.
Uh-huh.
Reconsider, just vote it.
Yeah,
Adopt.
okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
I move that we accept and adopt the wastewater budget of $225,000. That would be raised and appropriate.
Second.
125 is raise and appropriate, 100 is from free cash.
Okay, 125 from raise and appropriate, and 100 from free cash.
Second.
Discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
We had a question before. I would move to reconsider Article 18, the Water Department Ford F-550.
Big trouble.
So I'd move to reconsider that one.
Second.
Second, thank you.
I
Discussion.
move we accept and adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
And that
Second,
would,
over here.
the amounts in the article. Yeah, the amount.
You're getting faster.
They need it, they need it.
18.
Close.
Can't argue everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. 76,551 from water receipts.
76,551.
Yep. Anything further?
Nope.
Being none?
We have to vote.
Yeah. Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Thank you.
Um,
It's good.
Mr. Chairman, the planning board has come back with recommendations on the zoning articles, so if you want to reconsider those, we can. You want me to do that?
Yeah?
Four
We
of
still
them.
going?
Yeah.
Move, reconsider Article 23, 24, 25, and 26.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a quick comment, Jack.
Just to reconsider the,
Oh,
Just to
Yeah, so
reconsider.
reconsider.
Go ahead.
All right.
it'll be
All
quick
those
around
in favor,
here.
reconsider, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Thank you. John, is there something in your mind?
Are we gonna vote to reconsider?
Yeah,
We already
will.
voted to
We just voted for it just now.
Reconsider, yeah.
Just did it.
Okay, I did tend to the planning board for these 3 articles, and I can report back what I learned.
3 or 4?
Four.
4 articles.
Yeah.
Four articles, yeah.
23 to 26.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we
Accept and adopt.
accept and adopt Articles 23, 24,
25, 26.
25 and
26.
26.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Thank you.
Oh,
You're getting
on that.
faster. Wow.
I attended the planning board session on those 4 articles, just to learn, because we had voted them previous, I think,
Mhm.
on a Tuesday night, and they were meeting on Thursday, so I had nothing else to do Thursday night, so I went to listen to it. And
You need a
I,
hobby.
just say, Dana probably says I need a hobby. The accessory apartment was basically to relax the zoning laws, as I understood it, from a special permit that you need now for an accessory apartment to a regular permit, pending that you meet all the requirements that a pending permit requires.
Good.
And the portable signs, I guess there was an issue primarily down in Harwich Port, along the main street there, with a number of businesses that were putting out these sandwich boards,
trifolds,
sandwiches,
yeah.
and they were blocking the sidewalks. People visually impaired people were hitting them with their canes and falling down, so they adopted new rules and regulations on those sandwich boards to address those concerns, which I'm in favor of that. The next one was retaining walls. This was to ease the setback requirements for septic retaining walls from a 20-foot setback that's required now to a 10-foot setback for retaining walls for if a guy has to put a person has to put a septic system in the backyard, and they can do it now 10 feet away from the plot line without getting a special permit. That's how I did that. And the last one was a floodplain restriction that if your house is deemed to be in the floodplain and it's, don't quote me, I think it's 32 feet is the height limit for a structure now. You're able to raise the house another 3 feet, so it would be 35 feet. And you'll still be able to get 32 feet of height in your house, but be 35 feet above the ground. And that was to accommodate the floodplain, 3-foot line floodplain. So I recommend that we approve and adopt those four.
Any further discussion?
Can,
Cool.
I didn't raise my hand, go ahead.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Dave.
I know the selectman had a question about the whole height kind of thing, and I also heard on that,
Just to that's somewhat accurate, but just to maybe provide some clarity, because I did look into that today.
right, me too.
So, right now, thank you. So if you have a house to the point that you are at, let's just say 30 feet, the floodplain map changes and you're now 2 feet, so you need to go up to 32 feet. Under the existing rules, you would have to go get approval to accomplish that. Now, you're eligible, if it's 2 feet in the floodplain, then you can actually go from 30 to 32 without having to go through a larger process. If it's 2 feet and you want to go from 30 to 35, then you would still need to go through that process.
Were you in my neighborhood today? Vacation Lane?
I was not.
Because there's a house going up across from us that's, they had to build in what they said was a floodplain. It's been fascinating, 'cause they had massive concrete walls, everything else.
Put them on stilts or whatever.
Well, that'd be the next
A
step.
lot of that came out of Hurricane Sandy on
Yeah.
the New Jersey area
Yeah.
to address the
Dana?
issue.
The only difference in the explanation I got was that they also allowed 1 extra foot in there in case.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you
There you
could
go.
go up 3 feet before you have to go.
We need to vote, don't
You
we?
had a question, right?
I was just, I think this might have answered it already. I was wondering why the Board of Selectmen were holding on number, what is it?
It was about the
Yeah.
height,
The height, yeah.
Yeah, and
They didn't
we-
have that answer
We got
last
them
Monday.
that material. The planning board did do a write-up.
I was just curious.
Where are we at?
Voting?
We need to vote, there's a
On
motion
the
to
floor.
accept and adopt all 4 of those
Yep.
for town meeting.
Okay, so vote on Articles 23, 24, 25, and 26 to approve. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous, thank you.
And the only other one that we didn't vote tonight to hold was 59, the complete the construction of the pet burial grounds. We had some questions on that the last time we discussed it, and we weren't quite sure what we were gonna be doing with the results, had they come in and so forth. I don't think we've resolved any of our questions, but
And my suggestion would be if you voted
No
the one
recommendation.
before on 58 to provide for a funding source, then why wouldn't you pay to do the work to finish it and reimburse?
do you want me to answer that?
Only if it's a good answer.
My discussion on that was to do with the paying back number. I mean, one of my questions would be, if you're gonna have 60,000 plus whatever to finish it, and 70,000 to pay back the other, which one comes first? You have 131,000. You're gonna be doing some burials during that time, you're gonna have to pay for that, so it could be more than a year or two before you finish that. And I think things like grass and the walk and all that should be done right now, even if there's some sort of agreement that that would later be paid back again, like we did the original 70,000. It should be voted with available funds right now. So that was my objection. Got them conferencing anyways.
Well, I tend to agree that the approach we would probably want to take, obviously, we need to finish the site so we can sell the parcels, sell the plots, not
You're gonna be
parcels.
doing that, if
So-
cemetery is going forward, you're gonna be doing that the next day.
Right, so it would be, I think the intent, at least I'll speak for myself, administration here, to go forward and finish it so we can start to sell the plots and generate revenue. And what I was kind of counseling, the 70,000 to be reimbursed, it may take a year or two or three to do that, and I just need to double check to see if we could actually reimburse over that period of time where it's a revolving account.
Dan?
And my fear is that we can get caught in the same exact boat we were the last time, where we've authorized the finishing of this thing from an account that doesn't yet have the money, and then get to the end of the year and it still doesn't have enough money to do it, and you're right back before the finance committee asking for more money to finish this, and we already have enough negative print on that now. I would hate to put us in a situation where we're right back in that same exact spot, even trying to do it the right way. I would rather just pay for it and pay that back over time too, as you can, because you're still gonna be doing both. You're gonna be burying pets, you're gonna be laying out the groundwork, all those things, that costs money, and you're gonna be paying back. And 131,000 is a lot to pay back, and you're gonna be doing a lot of burying to do that, which you have to pay for. And, when you talk about growing grass, I would hate to lose a season for that. I would hate to lose, have people trying to be burying pets in there before it's finished, but that's what you're gonna be going through if we don't pay for it. So my recommendation to the finance committee would be that we just vote the money to be paid back, but vote the money from available funds. We have it, finish it, get that done, and then you're free and clear to pay it back over time. So you're not.
60 out of available funds?
Yeah, and then the other thing we talked about was, what if the petition article passes? Again, the selectmen are still gonna want some money in that article, available funds, to do something with it, to move the gazebo, to put some things back to where it was, to make it saleable again. So either way, an amount has to be voted in there, but in my opinion, and I'm just trying to protect administration and what we're doing as a town, my opinion, that should come from available funds. I don't know if I'm saying it wrong or whatever, but I think we're just opening up another can of worms if we get to the end of the year and we don't have the money in there.
What's the authorizing mechanism to spend money? I mean, even if I like your idea, then I need to know what's the authorizing mechanism to allow
Well, you're
you
gonna
to
vote
spend that
first
money.
Article 60,
The revolving fund,
the revolving fund,
which
and
has
then you're
nothing in
gonna
it,
fund it.
with an unknown revenue. John?
No, with available
John?
funds.
But the revolving fund, to Jack's point, is being funded from burials, not from available funds. That's very specific. That's what got us into the
Correct.
predicament in the first place. We took money from the human cemetery to pay for the pets.
Right.
The town attorney ruled that was wrong. And now it sounds like you're asking to do the same thing again, take it from some other fund and pay for the burials. It's very
Okay,
specific, I
right.
thought.
So if you authorize the revolving fund,
Mhm.
and then you have to spend $60,000 to repair it, to get it finished.
Right.
Which you should
That's,
do.
It comes out of burials.
right, but you also have to pay for those burials.
Right.
So it could take longer than 1 year to
Right.
finish the grounds and pay for those burials. I would hate to.
Well, I think that if I remember right from the presentation, that the cost for the internment, putting that in would be a separate fee. And I don't remember what the dollar amount is. It's like $100 per plot, if you would. So the
So that's
$100
1,300
per would
burials.
come in. So I think, yeah. I mean, maybe a compromise would be if you were to vote to accept and adopt with the prioritization of being finish the project first, and as funds become available, repay that. What I was trying to find, I don't know, I think where it's a revolving account, I think we have the ability to do that, to pay that over a period of time. I'm not 100% sure that that's accurate. That's my hesitation. But generally, you do have in a revolving account where you go from year to year for authorization.
So to answer your original question, why do we have not made a recommendation if we did on the other one? Why haven't we made a recommendation on this one? I still think we're in that same boat. We don't have all of our answers yet, so no recommendation is probably our best spot at this point.
When you say you need to pay for the burials, the town
That's-
doesn't do the burial. It's done by a private contractor, which the
Contract
pet owner
with.
pays. The pet owner pays a fee to have the plot marked, which is done by the cemetery administrator.
So it's just an article,
And
you'll have a
they make
balance.
the sale of the
We're gonna carry the balance on that article.
We're going to carry it, so we have the ability.
Do it all the time.
in that, there appears to be revenue, but no expense.
Because it's more capital item than it is.
Okay, I want to move this on.
So,
And
lots
I
there.
just have one,
Okay, where I think we need to end up for now is no recommendation.
Yeah,
Now, what were you going to say?
I just think that if we've got $131,000 worth of profit in that, what you're saying, then maybe our fees are wrong. Are we doing this as a service for people in our town? Or are we doing this to create that much profit?
I don't know. Okay,
Just a question.
let's take a motion to,
So
Not
that's,
recommended.
that does, we're already at that spot, no recommendation, so we didn't move to reconsider it, so we're fine. So as far as what we've had to cover tonight, we have done everything in the warrant that we need to do. It looks like we might have one or maybe two others to reconsider
Thursday.
Thursday if you
We're
want.
very close to being done, really.
And then next I will get reasons for these out to everybody, and then we'll
Okay.
go from there. And we have, next Tuesday, we're meeting with Chatham.
Yeah, my apologies. Just on the budget calendar that was adopted, this town has a unique rule where there's supposed to be a reconciliation meeting of the articles that are approved and the recommendation of the selectmen and then the approvals for FinCom. We were actually, according to our own calendar, we're supposed to do it on Monday, yesterday. So I don't know in terms of on that reconciliation meeting, I'm trying to remember if that is in the charter or whatever, but there is a requirement for FinCom and selectmen to get together on those articles in which disagreements exist
Right.
and to have a reconciliation discussion. With the printing of the material, we are kind of backing up a little bit. I didn't know if you wanted to try to attend the selectmen's meeting on April 1st. The board's gone through most of them, and you could potentially do that reconciliation discussion on Monday with the idea that you would probably have your final votes by this Thursday. But I at least wanted to alert you that I don't make up, we make up the calendar, but everybody buys into it. But
Post
that is
April
the timeline for that.
That's Monday.
Has that meeting been posted? the
Well, we'll be posting, actually, as Carol points out, I mean, that reconciliation meeting is, wait a minute, the FinCom submits written recommendations in the joint by March 31st. So we'll be
Right there.
technically one day late, but March 31st is Sunday, so we probably get away with that. But
The reconciliation meeting has always happened like just before town meeting. That's like the end when everybody's talked about it and argued. I don't know where, I know that we're supposed to try and get as many of our recommendations done into the warrant as possible, which we have just made great strides
in the
towards.
time I've been here, it has been before we print the warrant
And
that
we-
reconciliation meetings occurred. So at least for the last 5 years, that's been the
Yeah,
approach. It doesn't mean, I think in the past, you may have had the chair shows up and has a discussion with the selectmen, but just
last
to
year
do
we
the
did it all
reconciliation.
sitting out there, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think we did. But I at least wanted to point out, I mean,
Yeah, I think-
it's a charter.
We also have a charter requirement, the finance committee does, to have a public hearing on the budget, which we haven't had yet, and we're late on that. We were late on it last year and the year before. I think the timing in the charter is wrong, not that we're doing something wrong, but we just voted the budget tonight, and now we have, and that takes 2 weeks to post that meeting, because you have to have a notice through the newspapers, so I'll work with the chair to pick a date for that one, but that's gonna be in April sometime as well.
Right, right.
I just pointed out the timeline, that's all.
I just
Great.
wanted
Try not
to
to
let
be
you
the
know
bearer
we
of
know
bad
of our
news.
requirement. Pretty good, huh?
Good.
Nice meeting tonight, we did a lot of work.
Thank you for hanging in there. Appreciate it. I want you to know that she increased her time of responding for the second call.
My response time is
Like-
increased.
Accelerating through space.
Exponentially.
Exponentially, that's the word.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We are adjourned.